Okay. So it seems like he's ready. Okay. So this is the City of Ann Arbor Cable Communications Commission's meeting for Wednesday, February 6, 2019. I'm John Torgerson, the chair of the commission, and everyone else will be introduced as the roll is called by Lisa Wondrash, the city's communications director.
John Torgerson.
Here.
Tony Ramirez.
Here.
Dave Chappelle.
Here.
Tom Wright.
Here.
Jack Eaton.
Here.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have any comments?
Move it, if someone can move.
Can someone
I
move
move that we approve the agenda.
And a second.
We need someone to
Will you
second
second,
the approval of the
Tony?
agenda.
Oh, I second it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
I just want to point out that I'm not a voting member, so I
Yeah.
can't move or second, and
So
so
you can't
some
look
of
at
you
Jack.
are going to have to pick it up here.
Yeah.
Yes, Jim.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Got it.
We voted? Okay.
Yep, that's good.
All right. Okay. The next order on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. And can we have a
I
motion?
move it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second it?
Second
Thank
by
you.
Dave. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of approval?
Aye.
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 All opposed? And hearing no opposition, it's passed unanimously. Moving on to the next order of business. Okay. Oh, it looks like public comment is next.
I don't think we have anyone.
Okay. No one is here for public comment. Moving on to the next order of business is the CTN report.
Okay. I'll go over the October, December highlights. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of cold. So in October, we had our election coverage like we do every year. We continued those, quite a few of them, the candidate forums we do with the League of Women Voters. We also covered a railroad quiet zone public meeting that came up. That's sort of one of the newer things we'll talk a little more about. Our purchase of new channel servers was approved by council, and that has actually just begun getting installed this past week. And those are the servers that actually operate, run the channels, and also the live streaming. So this will be a new system that we'll transition to within the next month. Then we also covered a special session of the County Board of Commissioners. Our high school sports finished up in October. In November, the PTO for Ann Arbor Public Schools PTO Council had contacted us about covering, they meet monthly and they have a special speaker at each meeting, and they were interested in getting those recorded. They thought they'd be of interest to the larger community, so we've started to do those. We also started covering the solid waste resources planning meetings, which are we've done a second one since this. There's be another one in March. I think there's going to be 4 total. We completed our fall Rec and Ed camp that we do with the kids from schools. And we also did the North Side Steam Sidewalk Gap Project meeting in November. And then in December, we covered community climate conversation that was held at the public library. And we had our annual Santa Satellite program. And then we have the numbers for the channels, the different the meetings that we covered for the government channel, the public access with the programming that are submitted by our community members, as well as our training numbers for the classes, workshops that we've done. Then the educational channel with the programming we've gotten on there, and our community channel with the programming we've produced for that. And then at the end, of course, there's the video on demand showing the hits, the Vibit channel, which is strictly pretty much just meetings now, And you see city council is always the most popular. And then our YouTube channel, which hits seem to keep going up, and we put pretty much everything we do on there as well, and so we get a lot of hits on those things as well. So if you have any questions, let me know, and other than that.
So you said the Bybit channel now is pretty much just that subgroup of meetings.
Yeah.
Are you planning on winding that down in favor of something else, or is this just coincidental?
Yes, and it's going to transition with the new playback system. We also get an online portion to that for video on demand.
Nice.
So we'll start transitioning there, but we need to maintain this for a while for, you could say, legacy purposes, because there are links that are out there linking to these videos that we don't want to have to go back and reset all of them. So over time, gradually, we'll shrink this down, and we won't promote this. It'll just be what was there through a certain period of time will remain there.
Okay.
And everything will be coming from the new site.
Okay, great. And that new site is going to be hosted here then? It's going to be, or is it going to be an external host like Bybit, but it's that company that you bought the...
Yes, so
Okay.
the company that it's Tightrope Media Systems is the company that makes the new product that we're getting
All right.
installed.
Great. All right. Thank you.
I got a question. You ever thought about using Facebook Live? I know you got a Facebook
We've
page.
tried it a couple of times, but we haven't done it on any regular basis.
And you use it just for the government section, or public or education?
You know, when we've done it, it was like we had people out. We did it one time during elections, where we had some guys go out to a polling place just to show people that it's an election day and polling's going on. I can't think of the other couple of times that we've done it. We do like right now, this meeting is being live streamed on our YouTube page, and all the meetings get live streamed on that, and we can look into doing more with the Facebook Live, but we haven't gotten that far as branching out into other spots.
Okay, that's great.
Any other discussion about the CTN report?
I have a question. If a viewer has problems on, I think it's channel 17, getting audio, is that Comcast or is that us?
It's hard to know.
Okay.
So typically, people will call us when they're trying to view one of our channels to find out, I can't hear something, or, and in fact, we just had an issue the other night with the council meeting. At the beginning of the council meeting, a person called because they couldn't hear any sound. And as it happened, a cable had come unplugged. In the process of the new system getting put in, they didn't realize they had hit a cord and the audio had come unplugged. But it was only unplugged from the Comcast feed, not from any of the others. So it made it very confusing to everybody to figure out exactly, so it took us a few minutes to figure it out, but it was our issue. In the past, we've had people who had issues with their signal on our channels, and we've learned from Comcast that when there was a problem with the box on the side of their house, our channels were one of the first ones that they'd start experiencing issues with. I don't know the exact technical reasons why, but we kept saying, we can't find any issue at our end. And they kept saying, well, it's only your channel. And then Comcast went out and checked and said, oh, sorry, it's the box here. So it's certainly, if there was a problem with a program, we'd like to hear from them, so we can check.
Is there a phone number listed on the CTN page that a person can call?
Yeah,
I brought
it's
this
right on
up
all the
at
pages.
previous meetings where when you go to 17, 19, you got to max out your volume. And that's just been a given since day one, where you just got to max it out, and it's very frustrating. Because a lot of citizens don't realize, because then when you flip back to your regular channel, you're getting blasted, and then you got to
Yeah,
flip it down. So
we've gotten that
This-
feedback.
Yeah.
It would be nice to get that worked out. It's the least Comcast could do.
Is So I interrupted. I think you need to have the report accepted, or? No? You
Just the report.
All right.
Yeah. So, any other discussion about the CTN report? All right. Next order of business is regular business. And we have 3 items here. The first one is the election of the chair for 2019.
So the Open Meeting Act, we actually have not been doing this correctly in years past, and I will take blame for that. We actually have to be having someone nominate the chair openly and then have someone second it and then have everyone approve it. If not, then I go through a roll call. And then we do that same process then with the vice chair. So although in years past we've put that forward verbally names, we used to do ballots to ensure everyone voted. But it actually has to be open on the floor. So anyone who would like to nominate the chair needs to do that, and then I need to record that someone seconded that nomination.
Can I nominate John Torgensen for another term?
A second.
Okay, great.
We actually only got 3 meetings out of him last year, so we should make it.
He is eligible to serve again.
I nominate Thomas Wright. to
Well,
be-
actually, we just, is everyone,
What we got?
is everyone in agreement? Just aye?
Aye.
Okay, good. So unanimous agreement that John will serve as another term as chair. Now we can go through the process for vice chair.
Okay. And do we have a
Nominate
nomination?
Thomas Wright for vice chair or vice president or
There we go. Do we have a second?
whatever the title is.
I second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Okay.
All right.
Okay, done.
The next item on the agenda is the 2019 meeting schedule.
So per our bylaws, we meet quarterly. The calendar has been February, May, August, and October. But that is open, you know, to your purview. This prior year, we met at 4 p.m., but I know, I think Tony had wanted to put forward a recommendation that we move back to 3 p.m. to help accommodate his schedule, if that's favorable to everyone, but the discussion's open.
All right.
Well, I'm in the middle of major traffic at that time, and it's been really hard for me to go any place at that particular time. I'm up by the hospital, and
Right.
that's rough in that, at that time at 4 o'clock.
So this week, John Torgerson and I were speaking about that, and I don't want to inconvenience you at all, but I would be willing to pick you up and give you a ride.
Oh, no. I do my own driving. Yeah.
It would be no problem at all,
No.
because I don't want to inconvenience you with the traffic, but I have to tell you that it causes conflicts for me to have it earlier, and so I don't know how the rest of you feel, but you know, I certainly understand not wanting to drive through that kind of traffic, but I would
Well,
be
yeah.
more than willing to try to assist you if that's the problem.
Is there any leeway or negotiations or to like a 3:30 or 3:45 or would that make a difference? Or
I mean, the later the better. I'd actually like to have it later than 4, but I think we've had that discussion in the past, and that didn't go anywhere. So what do others think?
Later is normally better because of workloads,
And
but I can be accommodating if that's what needs to be done.
I know in the past, too, we've had some people that we hope to recruit to the commission who were not able to come earlier in the day, and we're hoping for after-work hours. 4 o'clock is not after-work hours either, though, so I don't think it would swing them either way on that. So.
I mean, it doesn't, you know, I mean, traffic is, you know, I mean, we only meet 3 times a year.
4 times.
So it's not like, you know,
Yeah.
we're asking a weekly commitment here or monthly. So, but, you know, 4 o'clock's, you know, I can live with 4.
Okay.
I can live with, you know, I'd rather, one thing I do not want to see is moving this any later,
Right.
5 or 6 or 7. I mean,
Right.
We have had challenges with the weather when it's later in the winter and the February, you know, it's Murphy's Law
Yeah.
that we've had very difficult times getting that when we have met at 7 p.m. And the February date is actually one of our
Easiest. Yeah.
really crucial because we're talking about the budget.
Yeah.
And the month that sets up the year also with the chair and vice chair nominations and our meeting schedule for the year.
Right.
So,
So for this particular point, we were discussing whether we should move the time from 4 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Do we have a motion to vote on for that?
our consensus, how do you feel about that, Tony?
What time was that?
It was the consideration of moving from 4 to 3, but then that would be more problematic than I think for others to meet earlier.
Yeah, well,
So it's if you can,
I mean, I'm
Work
not
through
here
the
to
traffic.
have everybody, you know, to say, okay, we're gonna do it for my sake, okay? If they can't, they can't, okay? And so, let me think about this because I'll make a decision and I'll let you know if I'm gonna stay with the commission or not because
if
of that.
it's not moved.
Yeah, yeah, it's not, I just can't do it, won't do it.
Okay. Not even if Jack came to pick you up?
Beg your pardon?
Not even if Jack came to pick you up for the
No,
meetings?
no, I'm not a person that need a ride, you know what I mean?
So, in other discussions, we've talked about if the Open Meetings Act would be accommodated by having people being able to attend remotely via the internet. I wonder if in this situation that is something that we could explore more. I know we talked about it, we didn't really explore it, and I think there was some action at the state level that was being.
I'd like to look into that for Jack though, because as a non-voting member, when I reached out to the city attorney's office about that, we couldn't do it for if we were voting or taking any action as a body.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to do that. But him attending as a non-voting member, if that's an option, I don't know if you're comfortable with that though.
Yeah, typically, if I can't make it at 3, it's because I'm in something else.
Right.
You know, so I wouldn't be able to attend even remotely because I would
Right.
be.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
So if that needed to be considered on a case-by-case basis, dependent on if the member can't attend, but they could attend remotely.
Right. It's something to look into, because that might give us some options.
If nothing's being voted on.
Yeah, then Tony could still attend remotely from the comfort of his home, unless there was something to vote on in those few times.
Well, he just wouldn't be able to second
Right.
anything. He wouldn't
Right.
be able to take action on any.
He wouldn't even be able to second.
He can't remotely,
Okay.
yeah, he
Okay.
wouldn't be able to
Right.
put forward any
As-
motions.
As long as we have as many vacancies as we have now, we're
Yeah.
always going to struggle with a quorum
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
votes.
Yeah.
But one of the problems driving the lack of volunteers is the hour of the day that we hold the
Yeah.
meeting, you know.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a
it's a hard one.
Mhm.
plus and minus.
Every commission I've been on has been in the late evening, you know, like
Yeah.
7 o'clock,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
Now, if you'd move this to City Hall, it'd be great, because I could walk there.
Oh, there you go. Is that an option? Do we have that option?
Space in City Hall is very competitive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, when council members just try to schedule an open room to meet with constituents, you find that there's almost never a room available. So I think kind of being here benefits the staff as well as
Right. Right.
just the availability of space.
Sure.
The parking, then,
Right.
although if no one's meeting in city council right now, we're live,
Right.
or are they being taped?
Well, someone could be in the chambers.
Yeah, and it could be taped, okay.
Yeah, we're not taping anything at this time.
Yeah,
But there are other
Yeah.
groups, committees, or boards that meet that we don't do
Yeah.
anything with.
Right.
so I did find my note on the Open Meeting Act. It allows for teleconferencing into public meetings, but those attending cannot vote, so they can't take action. And the city doesn't currently have the technology at this time to allow for this, because visually, and you have to be able to see the proceedings and be connected.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
First, Tony, I mean, I think, you know, it would seem to me, traffic, as far as traffic goes, Tony, I mean, like in the summer months, I think you might find it a little bit lighter, you know, because we meet what, February? What month?
May,
May,
August,
August.
and November.
So May and
Um,
August. you might-
Typically, August, we don't meet, though.
You know, okay, because, you know, seems to me with the students gone and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where traffic might not be as such an issue
Mhm.
come during the summer
Yeah.
rather than the fall.
Actually, David, just bring up a really good point. And I think, just to build upon what you're saying, is it, I know it'd be confusing, but is it possible for us to meet at different times for the different meetings? So for instance, on a voting meeting like today in February, could we meet, because you were saying weather was the issue, could we
Mhm.
meet at, say, 4 o'clock on a day like today, but have the other meetings be, say, regularly scheduled at 7? Because then that would avoid the rush hour traffic that Tony is concerned with. And it'll really only be the one meeting per year that would be
Right.
weather affected.
Right. I think so. I mean, because you vote on the calendar,
Yeah.
and then it's published that way.
Right.
For consistency's sake, people then, I mean, they would just have to know to check, because we don't meet at a regular time.
Right. So I guess the question that goes to Greg, would that really mess with scheduling against other things then? Would it be very hard to?
Yes, it does, because of
Okay.
our other evening commitments,
Right.
us meeting
Right.
for a half hour earlier in the day, then helps us to accommodate requests during the evening.
Sure.
Because we don't schedule public meetings on Fridays,
Right.
Saturdays, or Sundays. So
Right.
we only have Monday through Thursday. Staff wouldn't schedule a public meeting over council
Right.
on Monday.
Right.
So typically, there's just those very few days that we could do
Right.
public meetings or project meetings or outreach.
Right. Okay.
And evening meeting might cut into one of Mike's training sessions in here,
Yeah.
or other evening events
Yeah,
that the community really
correct.
depends on.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah. I mean, you could try to do a 3 and 5,
Yeah.
but if that would accommodate.
Right, but that would still put Tony
schedule.
right into rush
Yeah,
hour.
that would put him worse.
Yeah.
But we talked about recruitment,
Oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
that's why I was
That's
trying
right,
to
with recruitment.
push
yeah.
it towards more the end of the day,
Yeah.
if that assisted people in
Right.
making the meetings.
You know, this is such a tough question. I wonder if maybe we could try to discuss it further with Tony. Maybe the two of you could try to talk about what we could do, and then we could approve the agenda, the schedule.
We couldn't until May, though.
Yeah.
So we would have to finalize the May schedule.
Right.
I'm already late and publicize the 29 calendar.
For the whole
That has
year.
to get posted at City
Okay.
Hall in the atrium when we don't meet, then I have to just post what it had been.
Right.
And then once we take action on it and approve it, then I
Right.
update that.
Okay.
So can we adopt a calendar now and then modify it at the
Yeah,
meeting?
Right, that's
yes,
what I was
I just mean
wondering.
we have to
Yeah.
land
Yeah.
somewhere
Yeah.
for lack of
Yeah.
either land at the current time,
Okay.
you know,
Yes.
and then take action in May.
So Tony,
And Tony would have time to think about it.
would that be okay if we tentatively approve the meeting for now, and then you and Lisa could talk about
Approve in which way? No.
the current 4
I mean-
o'clock,
The current 4 o'clock
Okay.
meeting time.
and then you guys talk about what possibilities could be for resolving this conflict, and then in May we'll come back and talk about it again. Is that good?
But it just 4 o'clock is not, well,
Yeah.
if it was something very special, like the election,
Mhm.
I can give in to 4 o'clock, but
Okay.
I can research again with the city attorney's office if you can attend telephonically. I just, if it, at the time they said we don't have that equipment, so the
Well-
answer is no, and that's an Open Meeting Act requirement.
But there are other, like, web conference type things. If we could get
And
his...
that's what I mean, the city doesn't have that, so we'd
Right.
have to purchase something.
Well,
It's
not necessarily. I mean, it could be something as simple as, say, Google Hangouts, or something like that, where where that screen of him, it can be also
I'd
mixed
have to
in
go
and
through the
shown.
city attorney's office though
Yeah.
for the, so that is challenging
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
try to expedite
Okay.
that.
Well,
Is what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
because it's an Open Meeting Act, it's not something
Right.
I can say, or I can
That it'll definitely work. yeah.
accommodate with this product in
Right.
this way, because it isn't just this commission it impacts the city-wide
Sure.
for all boards and commissions
Yeah.
once you're opening that door.
Okay. Well, can we have I guess it would be a motion to approve the schedule as it currently stands at 4 o'clock for now.
Okay, I make a motion that
Okay.
we approve the schedule as it stands now at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, Tom.
Second.
Tom has
Okay.
seconded.
All right.
Okay. And is there any discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We have one abstention. And then, now, do we need a motion to have you follow up with Tony? Or is that, okay, good.
No, it's just an action, I mean, it's just
Okay.
a to-do.
All right, good. And
So-
then, Tony, we'll work this out. I feel like we can get this worked out.
So is the webpage correct that we have 3 vacancies on this?
Mhm.
Actually?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Does that include Barbara Clark? I mean, she's still a member,
No,
so it's really 4.
no, it's
I'm-
3.
It's 3.
Yeah, it's 3, and I know, Tom, we had an individual who just submitted an application for the commission last week to the mayor's office. He isn't a city resident, but he does work in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
So that is in the mayor's office for consideration.
so has it changed as far as you have to live in the city?
So.
A resident of the city? That's been changed?
That's all,
for the
no, that's
commission?
always been a requirement, but with 8 votes of council,
7.
or 7, excuse me, they can, the mayor can still put forward the nomination, but with 7 votes of council, they can affirm the nomination. So there are times that,
Because I know we lost a person because they really didn't live in the city.
correct.
I remember
And I
that.
had reached out to Tammy, asking her to resubmit, and although it takes action of council by 7 votes, that it's not insurmountable, she chose not to do that.
Yeah.
So because the Cable Commission requires either knowledge of the cable industry, knowledge of CTN, or, you know, it does have that caveat, then the mayor does consider non-residents. And Tom he was approved by 7 votes of council, and he's a producer of CTN and works in Ann Arbor. So it does happen.
In other words, if you own a business in Ann Arbor too, or not?
It's not the ownership, it's just typically that's how people become interested then. They either live in the city or they work in the city.
Okay.
But it's the city charter that requires you to either live inside the city or get the extra votes from council members to affirm your appointment. That's the wisdom of the original drafters of our charter. And it's not unusual to have a non-resident appointed to any one of our boards and commissions. So the mayor, the mayor
Yeah.
nominated 3 members of various boards and commissions at the last meeting, and 1 out of the 3 was a non-resident. So it's not unusual. It just takes that extra vote.
And you talk about like the city limits, right?
Yeah.
Where a non-resident, I mean, you think maybe, you think Dearborn, Taylor, but really you could, a person, Pittsfield is really.
Yeah, or Scioto.
Right.
No, there's,
Right.
That's what I
the
mean.
peripheral.
It's still, that's still Ann Arbor.
Yeah,
And-
I mean,
and-
yeah, exactly, yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
Okay. So the next item of business is the budget discussion.
So in your packet is the draft budget. This currently is included as the communication office / CTN budget within the city administrator's recommended budget. It's the first of the 2-year budget cycle. So council only approves 1 year at a time, and they will be beginning budget work sessions this month through March, with the city administrator presenting his draft recommended budget to council in April, and council approving, amending, etc., that budget at their second meeting in May. Please correct me if I've missed anything. So although we prepare the 2 years, council really only passes fiscal year 2020. But I show you the 2-year view of where we're at with our expenditures and revenue. 2020 begins July 1st of 2019, if you can believe it. The gray highlighted areas are, those are numbers that are given to me by finance. Really the only one that we have control over is temporary pay. And obviously permanent time work we have control over depending on the number of employees we have. And the reason that you see a difference between 19 and 2020 in the permanent time worked is because we have 1 less FTE. We had 2 programmers. We only have 1 programmer now. We had an employee quit, and that is why you see that drop. Just moving through quickly, well, first I guess I should start perhaps with the second page, because I think that actually is where we need to start our story. For the first time in my 14 years, we are seeing a drop in revenue. We actually, for fiscal year 19, will be readjusting the revenue numbers, which we had projected 2 years ago, which is also the complicated nature of how we do budgeting. You're estimating revenue 2 years prior before you actually have actuals. So we've always budgeted very, very conservatively for our revenue. And this is the very first time that we're not going to meet those numbers. It's not for anyone to be alarmed about. We always manage our expenses, and it's nothing that I will have to be going back to council for, I can assure you. But it is a trend that I don't see changing. For 2020, we're going to be able to accommodate our expenses and balance to the revenue. For 2021, there's going to be some significant cuts that we're going to have to take by way of materials and supplies and equipment, for lack of any other changes. So what I have prepared then is for 2020 is some slight reductions to expenditures. Please let me, if you have, I'm going to go through these quickly, but if you have any questions about a line item, though, just shout out to me. But we've increased, due to actuals, our equipment maintenance expenditures, but we've decreased expenditures for contract services. And then on page 2, equipment, a little bit in software, and then we've slashed our advertising in half, and printing. So that's how we're going to accommodate that decrease in revenue. And I'm confident that we'll be able to do that. What John and I had talked about was creating a subcommittee between now and August of a couple interested cable commissioners who might like to have some visioning and futuring conversations about CTN, the services we provide, the revenue forecast, thinking broadly about other agencies or partnerships that we might want to pursue, and to then bring back those conversations to the Cable Commission for fuller vetting and discussion. Concurrently, CTN staff are going to be meeting monthly to have the same conversations. And that hope then is to help set us up more productively for the 2021, whether that's to take a look at additional revenue, whether that's to take a look at the services that we're providing that perhaps cost a lot of money. You know, it's all, I think it's, every challenge has opportunity behind it. And so that's how we're viewing it. We went through, I think, a similar time when the state franchise agreement went into effect in 2008. That was troubling to many that happened, and it was unsettling, and it, I think this is also that time where cable revenue is decreasing. So it's time for us to think about the future.
Can you talk about the FCC a little bit?
Thank you. So our understanding, and jump in if you have newer information, but due to the federal government shutdown, the FCC comments that were put forward, that were hundreds of comments that were put forward throughout the nation in regards to the FCC proposed rule change. The individuals then who would then be reviewing all of those comments and reacting and providing comment back had not been working due to the shutdown. So that now does not look as if that will be considered then for the next few months. That's the best guess that we have.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What is it that the FCC was taking comments on?
Thank you. So the FCC, there's two, and Greg might be able to speak, there's two rule changes that were put forward that essentially were going to be going into effect in January, February.
Whenever they got around to publishing them.
And
the one was, the one that impacted us, or would impact us the most, well, there are the two, I think the one was about right-of-way.
And cell phone.
Yeah, and cell phone
yes.
Antennas being able to, they were setting rates that local municipalities could charge for the use of the right-of-way, where they haven't, where a state hasn't previously set up their own rates. They were trying to change that. The other one that is a little more directly impactful on us was the going back into the rules around the franchise fees and the PEG fees and what counts as in-kind contributions. by the cable company, so they could say that the PEG fee then counts as an in-kind contribution, and they could subtract that from the franchise fee. That's one thought from the way they had worded it. The other part was that they could actually look at the channels themselves and how much is one of the channels worth, and then subtract that value from the franchise fee that they're paying, which in some cases they could pretty much wipe out the franchise fee.
And I lost my thought, but one of the assertions going forward too, oh, I know what I was going to say, obviously the component about it that we submitted comment on too is the fact that it overrides all state franchise agreements throughout the country. So it would supersede any of those state franchise agreements in California, Michigan. So by way of that, there is a thought that that could open the door to some legal challenges should that rule then go into effect as is.
I could see some problems, because we do have an extant agreement, a
Yes,
contract.
yes.
And what is that,
Yes.
5-year contract?
10 years.
10-year contract.
Yes, we have
And
9
there's-
and 10.
There's this pesky clause in the Constitution about impairment of contracts.
Right,
And
right.
So, yeah.
So whether or not there would be immediate revenue implications, dependent on how that plays out, is anyone's guess. The comments, obviously, that were provided by the city and other agencies too included that, as part of their consideration. So that's the FCC rule change possibility also is something that we need to be mindful of as we're having these revenue conversations. It's a fact that the revenue is decreasing. We don't know yet what that rule change could implicate, but I think having this subcommittee at least formed and together during that time, we'd be more nimble then to be able to have those conversations in between when the commission is meeting. So we are seeking a few commissioners due to quorum issues to volunteer.
So, sorry, Tom.
He was raising his hand. to
I'm raising my
volunteer.
hand
Okay,
to
good.
volunteer.
Good deal.
So you are expecting a reduction in revenue of around 200,000 for next year. Now, is that just your estimate, or could that fluctuate either positive or negative?
Well, it's based on
Up
an
and down.
actual trend.
The trends.
Yes, but it could fluctuate, and we still, that is, like I said, we always estimate very conservatively,
Right.
so that I'm not.
So it could be less.
It could, and that still stays within our fund. So I do always try to estimate less revenue than what we actually get in instead of overestimating, because then my expenses don't match that. But when I do estimate less, that goes back into our fund balance. It's still retained for the use of CTN.
In a practical sense, it's always better to estimate in a manner so that you end up with extra money rather than too little money, because if you have too little money, you have to go to council and ask them to amend the budget, and that takes 8 votes, which is really difficult.
And that's why I assured you I would not be doing that.
Okay. I got a question about the equipment line. Now, are you talking about what kind of equipment? Are
All
you talking-
CTN equipment.
Cameras?
Correct.
Because,
Yes. It's just broken down here because finance requires us to have
is that
over a
capital? Is
certain
that under-
amount.
It's under 5130,
Mhm.
capital equipment?
Yeah, that just means it's any equipment over 5,000 that has to get charged to that item. And then we have 3440, which is equipment less than that amount that gets charged there. So we actually have $250,000. Sorry, not $150,000 towards equipment purchasing in 2020.
What line are you looking at?
You might be,
3440.
Oh, 3440.
and the
Well,
second
5,000.
column is the 2020.
Okay.
So the 5130, it'd have to be a camera that's cost more than 5,000 to pay it out of that line.
It's just an accounting,
Okay.
how finance accounts for items when they're more than or less than. The total amount is 150. We also charge items to the materials and supplies. So we have a lot of little items, that batteries and things like that, that also come out of that category.
And who makes the determination on what equipment to buy and when to buy it?
Greg,
Okay.
With
'cause-
help.
Huh?
It's not-
with staff, but
help,
Greg
yeah.
ultimately submits the orders, and then I code it and approve it and manage the budget.
Okay. Now, if I'm getting off topic, let me know now.
Okay.
And I'll save it for later. But what's the procedure if for somebody to request additional equipment that he or she may want CTN to think about buying?
Oh, it's usually like, as a producer, you may have talked with the staff, like with Mike or Alicia about, it'd be great if you guys had this stuff, and then they would pass that on to me, and oftentimes they'll even research and see if they see items that they think would work best.
And how many people are using it? If it's if it's a singular producer that's gonna use it, or if other people would benefit from it.
Is there any way I can bring this up now or here about what
Items
I
that
would
you think-
see to be purchased?
It would be
It
better
might
offline.
Yeah, you might want to wait till after.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the things that jumps out at me is the permanent time worked, the very first line. There's a really severe reduction, which means that CTN is trying to do more with less.
It's a singular FTE, and that does sound like a lot, but it's because their entire salary and all of the benefits are rolled into that. So it is a singular FTE though.
Right.
You
but
are
that's-
correct though.
That's one
that-
CTE down.
Correct,
Or one-
which
one
is also
FTE down.
why I cannot cut significantly from our temp
Yeah.
budget. But that's also why we also need to have these conversations about the services that we provide and how we work and how, how we're broadcasting, what we're broadcasting, the number of channels.
Right.
All of that, needs to be taken a look at before Greg and I made a conscious decision with this budget that we're not gonna recommend adding that FTE. I would not feel comfortable doing that. So we're gonna manage within until we can solidify the best approach for that.
Right.
But returning to the number, it's,
Mhm.
and check my math, it seems like $195,000
Mhm.
for salary and all of the benefits that one person was getting?
Mhm. That's the number that I was provided.
Okay, and what was the job title? I'm trying to get an idea of what we're
Yeah,
missing.
it's a lot. She was a programmer, yeah.
Um, And that remaining $485,000, how many employees does that represent?
10?
Right.
So when I spoke to Jack about the formation of subcommittee, he said that falls under the Open Meetings Act.
Mm-hmm. That
And
we need to be taking notes.
We need to be taking.
And posting it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
making it
okay.
public.
So typically you have to give advance notice of a committee
Mhm.
meeting.
Mhm.
I'm going from this meeting to a committee
Mhm. Yeah,
of
and
the
post it.
Of the Energy Commission. And
Mhm.
they're not televised,
Right.
but they do issue an agenda and post a notice of the meeting in
Mhm.
advance.
Okay.
And then, issue minutes afterwards.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
so.
And those could be at lunchtime or during, I mean, it's
And
whatever
yep.
works within the accommodation of the members of that, just as long as they're publicly noticed and,
Yep, yes.
yeah, okay, all right.
Okay.
I was hoping that we got who wanted to serve on the subcommittee, and then offline we could decide when the group can meet, and perhaps over the next 2 to 3 months, if we could commit to a meeting schedule, and then I can post it.
Okay.
It's
And do the appropriate.
That's typically how it's done. So you,
Okay,
like
that
you could
sounds-
send out a doodle poll.
Yeah.
Or however.
Right, right.
There's not enough of us, so it's gonna be
Well,
complicated.
it would be like 4 people
Yeah.
Right.
But,
that we were coordinating,
Right.
yeah.
So I will happily serve on that subcommittee.
Okay,
and
so we have you and Tom.
Tom's indicated.
Yes.
Either.
And then it
Tony
would
or
be
Dave?
myself and Greg
Okay.
that would attend, so
All right.
it'd be the four of us.
All right.
So I think it'd be good to describe what it is that we intend to do. And when John and I talked about this, it was really to have a good, robust conversation about how we start making up for the money that we're losing from the reduced franchise fee, but also to discuss if, like if the FCC just wipes out our
Right.
our franchise fee, then we really need to look at different methods of budgeting this.
Right.
And so,
Right.
and I think that that's a really essential topic for discussion. And although I'm not a voting member here, and I wouldn't be in any committee, I would not mind if you just let me know when those meetings are.
Okay, yeah,
So I can attend.
okay,
Thank you, Jack.
that'd be helpful.
Okay. So does the creation of this subcommittee need to be a motion?
Probably.
Okay. Do we have a motion to create this subcommittee to look into the question of the CTN budget and possible
I make a
suggestions?
motion that we create a committee to look into the CTN budget.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded. Okay. Any discussion about the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. All right. So the next item on the agenda is commission staff comments.
Oh, were you done presenting on the budget?
Sorry.
Yeah, yes, unless
So,
someone had
as
other
your
questions.
council
Mhm.
liaison,
Yes.
I would encourage you very much to give me some room to work. So tell me how you're planning it to live within your means, but tell me what you also want. If we were to continue to do what we've done in the past,
Mhm.
because I can advocate on behalf of
Mhm.
CTN. That money is not going to be as scarce in the general fund this year as it has been in some past years, and so that just,
So,
keep me informed as to
Yeah, okay.
what it would cost you to do what you do. I mean,
So-
I think that we place a high value on what CTN does, and so.
I appreciate that, and that's also why I was hoping the subcommittee would be so helpful too. We definitely can work within our means within 2020,
Mhm.
most especially because council just approved the entire upgrade to the replay system,
Mhm.
which is happening this year, which
Yeah.
was a six-figure.
Yeah.
And
remember.
so our major capital equipment expenditures then with that, this coming year then, we don't have planned
Oh, yeah.
huge
Everything's
expenditures.
new.
Yes, exactly.
On everything.
And the council chambers that was redone a couple of
Okay.
years ago. And so it's the 2021 that I definitely see us needing to do the work
Mhm.
and the research and setting us up for, if we want to continue as is, this is what we would need. And this is the revenue we would need to do that, or these are the partnerships we would need to form
Absolutely.
to bring that in. Because the other thing too, which is also why the staff discussions have to happen concurrently, because of all the nitty-gritty items that happen when we have ideas. For instance, CTN's not a revenue accepting facility. That requires an audit, that requires the treasurer setting us up, so those kind of things then have to get vetted through. Would we spend $3,000 on a credit card machine to take $1,000 in? No. So those, that's why we, hopefully having these concurrent conversations, then we can vet out the best ideas, because we still only have the staff we have to pursue all of this, and figure out what's then prioritize, to get us to 2021 and better prepared for those council conversations. Yeah,
And just
and I
warn-
appreciate that
yeah.
too, to help
Yeah.
sort through how would that information best be presented, in what way, and at what time.
Sooner is the better.
May. Yeah, yeah, okay.
I also want to warn you that council did pass a resolution a number of months ago, and it originally was only addressing solid waste, but at the council table there was an amendment on the use of temporaries, and we're trying to get away from the use of temporaries. And it was so broadly worded, I believe it covers, but you should just let me know what that would cost you, because I'm going to advocate for the end of using temporaries. So there'll be a substantial cost there.
Yeah, and a service reduction. Because the point to be made, we can't replicate FTEs to temps for us, because 4 temps in a night meeting is 4 meetings versus 2 FTEs at that same cost can only do 2 meetings.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's why
You
it's
guys
actually the number.
You can't use part-time employees under the absentee contract? I don't know.
Yes,
Okay.
we could move towards, there's still the cost associated with it, with the benefits, even though we're still offering benefits, but whether then it's permanent part-time staff could get used in lieu of temporary staff. It would still not be apples to apples as far as the services that we'd be able to, so we'd have to analyze that and show you.
That's why I'm giving you a heads up.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the budget? Okay. Moving on to commission staff comments. Have we any staff comments, commission comments?
Well, I'm going to report from the city council then.
Okay.
A couple of meetings ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, council passed a resolution requiring agendas to be posted in advance, well in advance, that preliminary or draft minutes be made available online within 8 days of a meeting. And especially for a commission like this that only meets quarterly, we're not going to approve these minutes until our meeting 3 months from now. But people might have an interest in what we did, and so having the draft minutes online is pretty important. And so we're trying to regularize how all boards and commissions operate. And so that'll be something that I hope that our board and commission
They'll be up
administrative,
tomorrow.
yeah.
I'm the person that.
Yeah. No, I know that you do it, and I know that they're available,
Yeah.
but,
The
you know,
draft part is new.
yeah, working with our boards and commission director, that, you know, he should be able to help you facilitate
Yep.
getting it up online.
I'm meeting with him
Yeah.
tomorrow.
And one of the other things that he's working on is to regularize all of the bylaws of all the boards and commissions. And I'm not sure if he's brought any ideas about, I'm not sure I've ever seen our bylaws for this commission. But,
I can send them to you. They were updated,
2012?
yeah, 2012.
I think that was the date I
Yeah,
saw.
so they did go through the city attorney's office when they were updated. So if there was any changes between now and then that they're seeing of us being out of line,
yep. And,
he hasn't come forward yet.
well, I think they're doing them kind of in a priority order.
Yeah,
The
okay.
busiest commissions first. And,
Okay,
you know,
yeah,
so we're still working on it on the Energy Commission, but the
Okay.
Environmental Commission's already passed theirs, I
Mhm.
believe. I think the Planning Commission already passed theirs, so.
okay,
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's not imminent, it's not urgent, just to make you aware that that is coming.
okay.
And I think that's all that happened at council that affects us here.
Okay. So, you're gonna be putting forward a resolution about temp usage? Or that was part of
That was already passed,
that
and so-
resolution that was passed, that because it was broad
Yeah.
and not, just to solid waste,
Mhm.
then we'd need to be taking a careful
So-
eye.
I will send
Towards-
an email to the city administrator.
Okay.
Reminding him of that and the impact
Okay.
it might have on this,
On
and
other-
I will
okay.
copy you on that email so that you're aware
Okay.
that I'm
Yeah,
communicating
to
on
see
this
how,
subject.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I would
But-
need assistance in how that
I'm gonna
impacts
ass-
or not, or assessing, yeah.
I'm going to assume that they will take the lead.
Citywide,
Yeah.
not just us as well.
Yeah.
Is what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
looking towards, the eye
Yep.
towards citywide, yeah, okay.
Are we on a on demand? Can we get on demand any of the meetings? Does Comcast provide that for us or not? If I wanted to watch this
I
meeting
know,
later.
yeah, I know what you're
and
saying.
Get it.
I mean,
could've sworn we had
online.
On command, on demand.
Online, but not
Online, but
via
not-
cable.
okay.
Comcast does not offer that.
Yeah,
for
so
CT.
it's just online that you
Oh,
can
okay.
watch
I
a
was just
meeting
wondering
at
if you
any
had
time
that.
at your convenience, whether through YouTube or Vibit, and via our new system soon. So you'd have to do it on the internet.
Yeah, okay. For what we pay, they should give it to us anyways.
Okay. So we've reached the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.